Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunday morning at church. First, I want to start off welcoming Amy for all the good work she's been doing, making all the technology work. And that leads into the next part. You all aren't here, but neither are the musicians, but that's because they also are observing the pandemic rules issued by Olympia. And so fortunately, because we have the technology to be able to transmit from home, I'm going to turn it over to Nick Bayard at the residence, wherever he's at, to do the morning music.
Good morning, everyone. I want to send love and light to the Unity Church community, and a special thanks to the church leadership for keeping the services going and for keeping us all connected. This is a John Hartford tune, and it's an honor to be playing some music for you this morning. It's knowing that your door is always open, that your path is free to walk. Makes me tend to leave my sleeping bag rolled up and stashed behind your couch. Just knowing I'm not shackled by forgotten words and bonds, ink stains that have dried upon sunlight. Keeps you in the back roads by the rivers of my memory. Keeps you ever gentle on my mind. Not clinging to the rocks and ivy planted on some column now that finds me. Something that somebody said because I thought we'd been together walking. Not knowing that the world will not be cursing or forgiving when I walk along some railroad track and find that you're waving from the back roads by the rivers of my memory. For hours you're just gentle on my mind. Oh, the weekends and the clotheslines and the junkyards and the highways between us. Some other woman crying to her mother 'cause she turned and I was gone. I still might run in silence, tears of joy might stain my face, the summer sun might burn me till I'm blind. But not to where I cannot see you walking on the back roads by the rivers flowing gentle on my mind. I tipped my cup of soup back from the gurgling crack of cauldron in some train yard. My beard a rough and cold pile and a dirty handful all across my face. With cupped hands around a tin can, I pretend to hold you to my breast and find that you're waving from the back roads by the rivers of my memory. Ever smiling, ever gentle on my mind.
Thank you, Nick Bayard. It's wonderful to have this technology where we can patch you in from your home. So thank you for joining us. Thank you ahead of time to Sadia, who will join us for the next couple songs. So I just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone joining us online. Welcome to the love and the light that is Unity of South Sound. My name is Reverend Jeffrey Fowler, and it's my joy to welcome you here on this beautiful Sunday morning. So in an effort to stay in alignment with healthcare professionals, we are continuing our services here at the Spire online. And we will let you know when we plan to join together back in person, but it is getting closer. I think you can feel that. Yay. So if you have any questions or concerns or joys that you would like to share, please contact our office. The number there is 253-301-0385, or you can email us at office@unityofsouthsound.org. So we just invite you to take a moment and just relax and realign yourself with the truth of who we are. So if you'll please say with me our opening affirmation. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotence. And our mission statement. Inspired by the divine, as an inclusive spiritual community, we explore and express our highest potential. And our vision statement. Present and centered in divine love, we co-create a peaceful and awakened world. And our core values, we are love, joy, abundance, and spirit-guided. As I light this Christ candle, I invite you to let it symbolize the divine light that is glowing within each of you. And so we take this moment to join in prayer. And as we do so, we open our hearts and our minds today to make room and to create a loving space for both our humanness and our divinity. For we know that we are both. We are a human being, we are a spiritual being. And that spiritual being is flowing through our humanness, and our humanness is flowing through that spirit within us. And so today we bring ourselves into deeper alignment with both, with a deeper sense of honoring and recognition, and with a heightened sense of adventurousness to mix these two within us in an alchemical process that leads us to something greater. And so we honor the fullness of who we are together today, and we bless the world with that love and with that grace and peace that flows through each one of us. And so we are so grateful for this time together. And we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. And so if you'll please stand and join with Michelle wherever you are in singing our congregational song.
When there's light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, there is harmony in the home. When there's harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. When there's order in the nation, there is peace in the world. When there's light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, there is harmony in the home. When there's harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. When there's order in the nation, there is peace in the world. When there's light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, there is harmony in the home. When there's harmony in the nation. When there's order in the nation, there is peace in the world.
Beautiful song. So at this time, I want to invite you to extend a namaste greeting to whoever is near you. If you feel comfortable and you live with someone, you can give them a hug. If not, we just invite you to bow and say, I behold the divinity you are. Namaste. 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 So I want to extend this namaste greeting out to the entire Northwest region. Namaste. Extend it out to the entire United States of America. Namaste, United States of America. And extend it out to the entire planet. United States of the world. Namaste. Namaste.
I am a light. I am a light in this world. In this world, I am a light. I am a light in this world. In this world, this is a time. This is a place. Let it shine. Let it shine. You are a light. You are a light in this world. In this world, you are a light. You are a light in this world. In this world, this is a time. This is a place. Let it shine. Let it shine. We are a light. We are a light in this world. In this world, we are a light. We are a light in this world. In this world, this is the time. This is the place. Let it shine. Let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I am a light. I am a light in this world. In this world, I am a light. I am a light in this world. In this world, this is the time. This is the place. Let it shine. Let it shine. This is the time. This is the place. Let it shine. Let it shine.
I can feel you all letting it shine wherever you are. Thank you. So right along with that, we're going to read a poem from the poet Hafiz. And it's called A Wild Holy Band. Your breath is a sacred clock, my dear. Why not use it to keep time with God's name? And if your feet are ever mobile upon this ancient drum, the earth, oh, do not let your precious movements come to naught. Let your steps dance silently to the rhythm of the beloved's name. My fingers and my hands never move through empty space, for there are invisible golden lute strings all around, sending resplendent chords throughout the universe. I hear the voice of every creature and plant, every world and sun and galaxy, singing the beloved's name. I have awakened to find violin and cello, flute, harp and trumpet, cymbal, bell, and drum all within me. From head to toe, every part of my body is chanting and clapping. Hafiz, the beloved, has made you such a luminous man. For with constant remembrance of God, one's whole body will become a wonderful and wild holy band. Thank you, Nick and Sadia, very much. And thank you for the technology, and thank you for Amy operating the technology. We're grateful for all of it, and I can really feel the devotional energy today. It's neat. You all don't know, but Amy's at the back, and she'll make the sound come alive on the computer, and we can hear it where we're sitting. So it's just, we can feel your presence, Nick and Sadia, so thank you. Set this over here. So today we're going to talk about really embracing both our human and our divine self. So really the totality of who we are. And as I wrote this, it felt like, gosh, this is several talks. And so it's what wanted to come through. And so what we're going to do is just kind of do more of a survey and look at a bigger picture today of who we are. And what I want to emphasize is that we really are both. And so we're going to talk about really learning to recognize and honor both of these parts of ourselves, the human and divine, so that we can not only allow them to come into the fold of our consciousness, but so that they can really be more fully expressed in our lives today. And I think we are kind of ready for this as a culture. I think we're ready to take it to this level. And it may be that as we bring both of these into our consciousness, that what emerges is somewhat different than what we have imagined before. And so let's take a look at these two component parts, the human and the divine. We're going to start with the divine, and our second principle in unity is that each of us is made in the image and the likeness of God, of this divine intelligence, of this unconditional and infinite love, and that we have a spark of that divinity in every one of us, and we call this the Christ, or the divine consciousness. Now, it's interesting that what we want to do is to start to build that and make that spark a whole blaze within our being. But oftentimes, we don't even acknowledge it as a culture. I mean, how many people do you know are sitting around thinking about their divinity and saying, yes, I am a divine being? But really, I mean, we're all made in the image and likeness of God. And so if we step back and sort of deny that or suppress that or ignore that, in a sense what we're saying is God's not a very good creator. I mean, God can't create very well because I'm not divine, but I'm made in the image and likeness of that. You see? It's kind of it doesn't even really quite make sense logically. And then if we do begin to really accept our divinity and dig into it, we can start to get this feeling that sometimes is projected onto us that, oh, we think we're better than other people because we're accepting this. But that alone is kind of egotistical because every single one of us is divine, right? So these sort of reactions that start to stem up right away don't even really make logical sense. And what I want to emphasize today is that we really shouldn't sacrifice our divinity just so we don't make others feel bad or make ourselves feel bad. So what we want to start to do is really get in touch with that and really start to embrace that. And the first thing that begins to happen sometimes is there's all these subtle cues that we get from the world around us, and I would go so far as to say almost subtle manipulation from the world that says, don't go that way. And I know if you've sort of lived and stepped into your power, you've experienced that. There are a million different ways that this happens, and it's very, very subtle. Now, it's interesting, we also do it with ourselves because we sort of resist the divinity in us, otherwise we would fully be in that state of consciousness. So what I invite us into is to make friends with it. You know, start to have a dialogue with it and begin to develop a deeper understanding of that aspect of yourself. Now, this takes courage. And there's usually about 3 reactions that I see that happen that we have all been kind of programmed to believe. And I want to touch on each one of these reactions. And the first is, when we get in touch with our divinity, the reaction from the world or from ourselves is, well, it's not connected with the physical. It's out there somewhere. Number 1. Number 2, if it's out there, then it's not real. And number 3, if you contact it, that part of you is superior to the humanness in yourself and in others. Now, these 3 reactions occur so oftentimes in our culture. I want to look at each one of them and kind of poke some holes in them, if you will, or disprove them. Because really, we are in this process of becoming one with all of it. And it's really important to dig in and see, well, how do we resist part of our oneness here? So number 1, the divinity is not connected with the physical, it's out there. We see this so much. And this is really a 1,000-plus-year-old belief system, if you think about it. It really comes from the medieval times when all of us were taught that God is up here, out here somewhere, and that we're down here and somehow we're less than God. Now, God, of course, could be projected in many different images as a bearded man in the sky or as this angelic host with the bright shining sun. But whatever it was, somehow this world down here wasn't quite as good. And up there, maybe it's heaven, and we get to go there for good someday. And so along with this is this kind of insinuation that maybe we're slightly unworthy. You know, if we're down here, maybe only special people in those wonderful paintings in the church or wherever they are they get to go and be with God, or maybe they get to feel their divinity while they're here on earth, like the Buddha or Jesus. And after a while, this becomes so common that we get really comfortable with it and we don't question it. And when someone starts to really say, you know, I'm made in the image and likeness of God, and I'm starting to experience it and live it, we say, oh, that's woo-woo. And you think about how many judgments we make about that. And then you say, gosh, that really prevents us from having a healthy dialogue and relationship and exploration and beyond that experience of this divine aspect of, by the way, who we all are. So that's very damaging if you think about it. And it's kind of like planting a flower upside down. You know, what's the purpose? You want the flower to bloom and grow and spread beauty and fragrance. But by not really acknowledging the divinity, we're blocking ourselves and we're really sabotaging really half of who we are. Now, anybody that we notice that starts to really express it and live it, there's some sort of reaction that says, that guy or that woman is a little weird. And really that's coming from fear. It's coming from stay small and don't realize unity's second principle. Don't realize what Jesus said, that the kingdom of heaven is within you. Just stay here where it's comfortable, in the physical. All of you probably know the story of Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. And it's a story that's really a parable of all of us and what we do as a culture. And it's saying just this, that Jonathan Livingston Seagull is this seagull that kind of dreams and dares to say, you know, I can fly really high and really fast, faster and higher than I've ever seen it depicted to me before. And everybody says, oh no, don't do that. You know, don't fly, you're going to hurt yourself. And it's impossible. Your wings are going to tear off. I don't remember the exact story. But he does it, and he experiments, and sometimes he struggles and has difficulties, but he sticks with this inspiration that, you know, I can do that. And he ends up doing it, and finally they summon this council of all the birds, and they say, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, you are banished. And they kick him out for really expressing and exploring who he really is. So he goes on, and he goes to even higher heights, and finally returns to the group, and they realize, my goodness, this is possible for all of us. It's who we are. Now this tendency, you know, this is a parable of all of us, but I have to give us some credit and say, well, we're becoming less this way as a culture. I mean, we're starting to talk about and explore our divine nature. We're starting to have our own mystical experiences, but there's still that feeling that it's somehow out there and separate. If you take a day at the grocery store, for instance, and you say, I'm going to go and have a mystical experience while I'm shopping for groceries. Already you probably hear that and say, nah, groceries aren't really God. There's some sort of separation there. That's out there in your home, on the mountaintop, but it's not in the grocery store. And when you really start to live it, because our fifth principle says you got to live this stuff, right? You don't want to just talk about it. When you start to live it, it is an unusual experience, and sometimes you get some strange looks. I know from experience. But really, our calling is to put it into action, right? To live this part of who we are, and this can take some time. It can take some real time. Now, if you think about that whole criticism of it really being out there and not here, it's kind of a selfish criticism in a way. Because like Jonathan Livingston Seagull, you know, so many of us are saying, don't go there. Just have the experience I'm having. And you think about that, it's kind of selfish. And interestingly, America really has a history of stretching and making improvements and innovations and really kind of celebrating those people that step away from the group and are innovators. I mean, think about our history. Yet when it comes to spirituality, we can think about things and we can say things, but when we start to live it, You know, that's the only field that doesn't really allow us to live and manifest our innovations. Interesting. It's where we say, oh, it's woo-woo, it's out there. Now, to me, this says we've got some shadow work as a culture to do around our divinity. And I think it really stems from creating a healthy sense of ourself. Because when you have a healthy sense of self, you say, you know, I love myself regardless of what is manifesting through me. Again, I'm made in the image and likeness of God, And if someone chooses to go forward and innovate and step out of the group, I can still love me. And I don't have to compete with that person. And by the way, we're all going to get there anyway, so let's take our time. We've got infinity. We've got eternity. And so we build that healthy sense of self, and we don't judge ourselves or others as being out there for trying to make those innovations. Now, in this process, what we do is we start to flip our energy and we start to encourage the divine in each other, encourage the expression of that divinity, and encourage ourselves to have a healthy relationship with what is trying to flow through us, what we're trying to innovate. Because again, we're all headed there and we all have access to it. So the divine is really not up there, it's everywhere. We all have access to it. So that's the first thing. Now the second criticism of our divine nature, because people say it's out there, is that it's not real. And I have to step back and say, well, what is reality? That's a philosophical question that's been asked for all time, and I would say that it is the inclusion of all phenomena. I don't know, that's my take. It's the inclusion of all phenomena, and so to say that this is real and this is not is pretty limited and narrow-minded. But we can see this happening all throughout history. When discoveries are made and something seems totally outlandish, what's the first thing that we tend to do? We say, oh, that's not possible, and we try to cut it down or attack it. Very few of us say, oh, there's like a monkey flying on a drone. But, let's consider that as being possible. Or something that seems outlandish. We usually don't step back and say, I'm going to consider that. And we get really attached to our point of view. And again, it's that sort of unhealthy sense where we don't have our solid core that says, I love myself, I'm going to be okay if this happens. I've mentioned before how this shows up all throughout our history, and one perfect example was when Galileo discovered the moons of Jupiter. And the Catholic Church said, that's it, you're arrested for the rest of your life. You got to stay at home, and we're going to make sure you stay at home. And he said, but look in the telescope right here, you can see them. And they wouldn't even look in the telescope. They said, it's not real, that's out there. And if you think about it, it's very sad. It's sort of like just stay with the group. My family always used to tell my brother, because when we would go places as a family, he would run ahead, and they'd say, SWTG, Jer, stay with the group. And in a sense, that's kind of what we try to do. But we aren't fully conscious of it. So I'm trying to bring us some awareness today of what we do unconsciously. So really, I think reality exists on many different levels. It's all phenomena. And our third unity principle states that all of our thoughts are creative. Now, I don't know if we've really stepped back and really contemplated that, because that's a very deep truth. Very deep truth. And what I think it says is that even to have a thought is a form of creation. So you can think of something that seems to be the most outlandish thing you've ever thought of. At some level, it's beginning to create. Now, it doesn't always manifest physically, because there's a process of going from the thought to the physical. But the ancients discovered and wrote about that there were 3 different universes that all overlap each other. And the first universe they call the causal world, or the causal universe, and it is a realm of pure thought. So that means every thought we send out is literally living and vibrating in this causal universe, all overlaying the physical universe. And then the second level is energy. So the thought becomes energetic, and they call this the astral universe. And then finally is the physical universe. And it all overlaps. Now, the point we've gotten to as a civilization is that we can analyze and describe the physical universe, but really there's this thought universe going on all the time. And what that speaks to is our third unity principle, that every thought we have is creative. Now, so when we send out that thought, it is setting things in motion in the universe that is leading to manifestation. Again, it doesn't always happen because we don't always have the power or the energy to bring it down in a physical form, but it's creating. And so in a sense, what we're saying is, it's all real. It's all real. Again, that sort of medieval belief system says, but if it's not physical, it's out there. See, so it's not real. Now, the third thing is that when we begin to have these experiences of the divine, we say, well, that's better than the human part of me or the human part of you. And then we get projected that, we must think we're superior. Perfect example, you think about unity and how many people look at unity and say, oh, it's that cult over there where they all think they're God. And we say, yeah, we are. And so are you. That we all are God. We're all expressions of God. So it's not something that's superior, it's just different, right? It's opening to another aspect of ourselves, and it becomes very new and allows us to sort of expand our identity, who we think we are. And as we go through that process, like I mentioned last week in meditation, we go deep into the spine and we begin to move that energy and open the third eye and have these experiences. We start to touch upon our divine nature. And by the way, this has happened so much before that there are descriptions of all the things we can experience in the Yoga Sutras, in the Hindu tradition. And they talk about all these different states of consciousness. So I invite us to really step back and release these judgments and release these projections and say, let's make this journey. Let's do this. Because we've been doing it for a long time, and it's beautiful. And you may begin to hear the speech of animals and the speech of trees, like the Yoga Sutras say. You may begin to see auras around objects and contact that astral universe. You may experience things in your own mind, like a photographic memory or perfect pitch. And if we can step back and say, all of this is it's not that big of a deal. It's just part of who we are. It's not superior. And in a sense, it's just as good as sitting with your friends and eating a sandwich, veggie sandwich together and watching some comedy. One is not better than the other. But one is something that we're more familiar with, right? We're more familiar with eating the sandwich. Now, all of these judgments, they sort of get in the way of us returning to our wholeness. And as we let that go and say, it's not superior, it's not inferior, it's real, and it's right here in the physical, we start to bring that divinity into our life. So I invite you to affirm, and you might even consider writing this one down because it just feels good. So just affirm with me in your mind, I am one with the infinite nature of God, expressing as my divinity. God is my true self. All of us have this consciousness inside of us. I am free to let this out and be my full divine self, along with all its powers and miraculous experiences. I don't heap superiority or inferiority on myself or others for any of it. It is all totally natural. It is my birthright to experience this, my divine nature. I love, respect, honor, and encourage this part of me. It feels good for me just to say that. So let's shift to the human side of us now. Now this over time has also been suppressed and pushed down and said, well, that's just not holy, or that's not, acceptable for us to move into. And of course, as we do that, it just gets distorted and it gets moldy and it festers and it just grows, and then it comes out in unhealthy ways for ourselves and others. And so what I want to recommend to you today is to really embrace that part of yourself and become vulnerable. Embrace a vulnerable state of consciousness. Because as we do that, what it does is it acknowledges what is there and what's been on our heart, and allows us to lift it up a little bit and work with it and say, this is something that I can manage, that I can work with. And in that process, we also develop a healthy relationship with the humanness in it and bring it back into the fold of our consciousness. Now, there may be a lot that we're experiencing right now that we can be vulnerable about. I mean, with the coronavirus, we have loss, we have grief, we have worry, we have depression and sadness. And as we get vulnerable and allow ourselves to acknowledge that, we say, that's okay. In fact, that's normal. It's a normal part of our humanness that oftentimes gets stuffed down, and we're not really acknowledging or expressing these deep, true feelings. As we know, we just get worse when that happens, and we struggle more, and we feel more hopeless. And so simply acknowledging and expressing is the first part. And we do this on our Wednesday calls, the coffee with yours truly, we get a chance to just express what's on our heart. Now, in addition to this, I think one of the best ways for us to allow the humanness in ourselves and others to unfold is to create a space where people can really be real and human with each other. Now, to do this, we have to understand that everyone's experiences are totally unique. The first thing that we tend to do when people are going through a struggle, especially something that's happening now where we may have some commonality, is we say, "Oh, me too." And when we do that, we're kind of not listening with an open mind. Because we're taking their experience and saying, "Oh, yeah, that's about me. Me too, I've had that experience." And so what I really invite you to do is just to try and listen with an open mind and begin to reflect back to the person what it is that you're hearing and validate that you understand what they are expressing and that what they're expressing is just normal. It's part of this shared experience that we're having, with this coronavirus or XYZ experience that you may be having. And I would say it's okay to be with those feelings as long as is necessary. Now, I also want to add that we work in proportions. Now, this is something I don't hear shared a lot. So I invite you, whatever you're struggling with, to ask yourself, how much of you do you think is experiencing that? Okay? Because again, we're both human and we're divine, and so we're in the process of acknowledging and mixing both. Now, it may be that what you're experiencing of worry or anxiety, you check in with yourself and you say, about 20 or 30% of me is there. And there's about 70, 80% of me that's hanging out in real happiness or peace. But because sometimes we shift from one extreme to the other as a culture, we say, "Oh, if I'm experiencing any of this anxiety or sadness, then, I must be really down and out." And we assume that, it's more like 70%. Or the person listening assumes that. Now, this is not really helpful in allowing our soul to move into a state of oneness with both our human and our divine natures. So what we want to do is we want to mix the two. And this word mixture is important because in the past what we've tried to do is transcend the humanness, or maybe not express the divinity, or detach from the humanness. But what we're doing now is we're saying all of it is valid. It's sort of like a baby that's just immersed in everything. They're immersed in the bliss and the joy, and they're immersed in their upset feeling whenever it comes up. They're immersed in the world around them and the world inside of them. And so we're like this big cosmic baby, but hopefully maybe with more awareness. And so the mixture, as it begins to happen, it shifts and it becomes something a little different as we really acknowledge both than maybe we have experienced before, and the result is almost like an alchemical process where something new happens. It transforms. And it sometimes confuses the people that are saying, be more human. Because maybe for them, the divinity part isn't there as much. So what you're doing just doesn't look more human. Or the people that are divine and you're experiencing the humanness, they're saying, be more holy and divine. They're saying, gosh, you're doing this and you're hanging out over here. That doesn't make sense either. But this is why it is so important, as I mentioned last week, for us to really experience God for ourselves. Because as we do that, the results of this mixture, this alchemical process, becomes very mysterious. And you start to allow yourself to go where you have never gone before. It becomes totally unique. Now, it's really important, I would say, to avoid judgment again in this process because as a soul, we're doing big soul stuff now. We're mixing it together, and we don't always know what we have just been up to. Oftentimes, we look at one lifetime, and we make a judgment. But it could be that somebody who's really into technology in this lifetime, they've been a farmer for many lives. And so we might have a judgment that says, that's not holy. Or maybe somebody who's partied and had all sorts of fun for lifetimes, and now they want to sit in a room and just be still. And we say, why don't you go out and have some fun? But we don't realize, look at what they just did for hundreds of years. And so we need to reel back our judgment and just allow the soul that's in front of us to do its thing and to unfold how it wants to unfold and be okay with that. So I invite you to affirm again, and if you want, write it down. I am one with the infinite nature of God expressing as my humanness. God is my true self, All of us have this consciousness inside of us. I'm free to let this out and be my full human self, along with all its powers and miraculous experiences. I don't heap superiority or inferiority on myself or others for any of it. It is all totally natural. It is my birthright to experience this, my human nature. I love, respect, honor, and encourage this part of me. So this is a long journey that we're undertaking. I mean, this mixing that I'm talking about, it's not for the meek of heart. It is about mixing, not renouncing. It's about mixing, not transcending. And as we do that, we begin to transform who we really are into something that includes all. And what I would say is in this journey, we are adding an experience upon experience upon experience. And that leads us to a state of wholeness. Now, it may be that you look around at people and they just have a smile that says, man, that person has been celebrating for lifetimes. That smile is a cultivation of that mixture I'm talking about. Or a sense of humor that has been honed from millions of hours of being carefree and laughing in previous incarnations. They may have a sense of compassion that is so deep that comes from lifetimes of excruciating struggle. And so as souls, we have all these experiences, and we are on this grand journey to put all of this back together. I think when we look back at it as a whole, we can say, my goodness, this whole thing is mathematically and geometrically a masterpiece of divine order. There is not one piece that is out of place. And so we can trust in this process and remember, as you go through it, that there is a power that's in you. When things seem to be too dark, the moment that happens, remember there is a light that is just underneath the surface, ready to catch you, like a net of light. And if you think, oh, it's so light and amazing, just underneath that is the dark. And it's not a bummer, because the light is just revealing what needs to be revealed so that it can be loved and healed and nurtured back into wholeness. Every dark corner of ourselves. And finally, as we walk through that process, we realize we're all of it. We're all of it. And then in that journey, we become a teacher, a spiritual teacher. And at a soul level, we say, I've got all these experiences, therefore there's a lot to share. And we all feel that way. And I would say that first and foremost, that teacher is a friend. They're a friend that's right there with us through the challenges. And even though we have these challenges, we know that there's also all these tools and experiences that help us with them. That's the difference that we get to now. And we begin to embrace all of this and recognize that this has happened before, this is a trend, and we're going to be okay. It cools us down. So I invite you to honor both of these this week and this month and really work with that energy of the human and the divine and become a teacher for other people, because as we embrace that humanness, we allow that universe of divine love to really flow through us, to flow through our lives. And then we begin to recognize that all of it, the divine and the human, it's all love. And it starts to become our experience of life more and more. And in that process, we start to welcome all back home to that love. And so it is. Amen. So let's just take this moment to prepare for a time of meditation together. As we do so, we take a deep breath in. And we breathe that out. Let's take another deep breath in. And we breathe that out. As we bring our attention to this moment, to this space, we allow ourselves to simply be vulnerable, to feel whatever is on our hearts. Whether it's a feeling of anxiety or sadness, whether it's a feeling of hope and upliftment, we allow ourselves to simply be and embrace the humanness that we are, all the sensations of this body and this mind and this ego. We honor ourselves as a divine expression of God in all its forms. And so as we allow our attention to go to whatever is on our mind and heart, we breathe into it and we embrace it. And as we do so, we start to infill it and immerse it in that divine love of God. That love that includes the most miraculous and expanded aspects of who we are. That love that has walked with us for lifetimes. That supports us through ups and downs unconditionally. And that expands us into greater and greater awareness of all things. As we begin the process of mixing our feelings, our joys and our challenges at that human level with this deep oceanic love, we feel ourselves more present, more anchored in the reality of what it means to be a human being. And so as we allow ourselves to contemplate this mystery, and be within us at this time, we simply allow ourselves to take a few moments to simply be together in the silence. And so we bring the light of our awareness back to this beautiful space, this space of wholeness that we have begun to create within ourselves, a space where we embrace and nurture all the challenges we may have, a space in which we infill our humanness with that cosmic love of God. And so we go forward into our lives with courage, with adventurousness, to continue to push the boundaries of who we think we are and to allow the divine to emerge in us and the human to emerge in us, however it wants to show up. It may be different than we have imagined. It may be odd or puzzling to others. And yet in this moment we instill the wisdom and the courage that we need to be fearless in its expression and to allow it to inspire us and inspire the world. The Christ consciousness lives within us, within all beings. And so we celebrate it and we bring it fully into balance with the humanness in this moment and in our lives. And we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. And so I just want to acknowledge and welcome anyone who may be joining us for the first time online. Thank you so much for being here. We are so blessed that you have chosen to join us. And so if this is the first time, or if you have joined us many times in the past, we would like to share with you this blessing to all our newcomers and our live streamers. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity you are. And so at this time, we're going to cue up Nick and Sadia with their next song and prepare for our love offering. And just to let you know, there are 3 easy ways you can do this. You can go to our website, which is unityofsouthsound.org. There's a small donate button in the upper right-hand corner of the homepage. It's orange. You can click on that and give a one-time or ongoing donation. It is simple and easy to do, and we're so grateful for that. You could also call our office again at 253-301-0385, or you can mail us at Unity of South Sound, 710 South Anderson Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405. And so whether you give electronically or you have it in your hand, I just invite you to hold your tithe in your heart or in your hand as we say the offering affirmation together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am in perfect balance and flow with the universal tides of giving and receiving. Thank you, God.
Well, we're Nick and Sadia Bayard, and we're grateful to have the opportunity to come into your homes and play some music, and welcome to our home.
Welcome. Good morning.
Hope you have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you so much, Nick and Sadia. You guys were good before, and I think you're getting even better as I listen. Nick really can pick, and the harmonies are beautiful. Thank you for sharing your joy and your love with us. So we've got a few announcements this week, and just to let you know, if you'd like to stay up to date on any of our events and services, please sign up for our e-blast, and it's easy to do. You can go to our homepage, unityofsouthsound.org, and at the very top, just click on newsletter sign up, and it's easy and secure to do. So please try that out. And also, I want to let you know we are celebrating our high school grads today. We're meeting here in the parking lot if you'd like to join us at 1:30, and we've got some cards and some gifts, and we're going to go and deliver those to the doorsteps of Ukweli Byard and Trevor Maloney. So it's just going to be a time where we celebrate and cheer and bless them for this amazing accomplishment. So bless both of you so much. And I'd like to just share our unity blessing with both of you at this time. So Ukweli and Trevor, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity you are. And we just see you going on to wherever your next step is in grace and love, and we see doors opening and you just being blessed through that whole journey. So congratulations to you both. Finally, we've got the coffee again with yours truly, Reverend Jeffrey, on our Zoom call at Wednesday at 11 a.m. to noon, where we can get a chance to really connect and share what's on our heart and mind. And I think this is important right now during this time of greater isolation to really find a way to connect. So please join us if you feel called. It's been a wonderful discussion over the weeks. You can check the e-blast for the link, or you can find the link on the homepage of our website. So blessings to you all for all of that. And at this time, we would like to, even though our youth are not physically here, we would like to bless them and bless our teachers and Jennifer Richardson, our youth director. So if you will, join me in giving them our unity blessing. So to our youth and teachers, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity you are. So at this time, I invite you to stand wherever you are, if you're able, and join with Michelle in singing the peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as Creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous run. To take each moment and live each moment in peace and harmony. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And our prayer of protection, the light of God surrounds me. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds me. I am the love of God. The power of God protects me. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over me. I am the presence of God. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. God bless you all. See you next week. Same time, same place.